The factories that run in the dark, no lights, no workers, no interruption. Production is rising, participation is not. In 2024, Xiaomi opened an 81,000 square meter manufacturing facility, roughly the size of 11 football fields. The factory operates 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It produces one smartphone every second. No production workers assemble the phones, no shifts change, no lunch breaks occur. The lights remain off because nobody needs them. This is not a prototype, not a laboratory, not a demonstration of a possible future. It is operating right now. At the same time, China deployed approximately 290,000 industrial robots in a single year, more than the rest of the world combined. Robot density in Chinese manufacturing increased nearly tenfold in less than a decade. Foxconn replaced 60,000 workers with robots in a single plant. China's manufacturing sector lost roughly 30 million jobs between 2013 and 2025, while output hit record highs. The future of manufacturing did not arrive gradually. It quietly opened for business. And the question this documentary investigates is not whether automation is coming. The question is what happens to societies built on the assumption that economic growth and human participation move together when that assumption begins to fail. The dark factory is not a single technology, it is a convergence. Robotic assembly. AI systems now perform complex assembly tasks that once required human dexterity: welding, soldering, component placement, quality inspection, with accuracy exceeding human workers at speeds no human can match. That is not efficiency. That is the permanent restructuring of what a factory floor looks like. Machine vision. Cameras and AI systems inspect products in real time, identifying defects, measuring tolerances, flagging anomalies, replacing quality control workers who once performed that function through years of trained observation. The inspection happens faster, and the inspector never develops the judgment that comes from years of watching a line. Automated logistics. AI-guided vehicles move materials through facilities with no human direction, navigating dynamically, optimizing routes, operating continuously without shift changes or breaks. Predictive maintenance. AI monitors equipment continuously, predicting failures before they occur, scheduling maintenance automatically, reducing downtime without the human technicians who once performed that function through accumulated expertise. Each technology eliminates a category of human presence. Together, they create a facility that can produce at maximum capacity, minimum human involvement. The output is real, the employment is not. Miguel Reyes spent 19 years on the assembly line at an electronics manufacturer in a mid-sized industrial city in the American Midwest. He knew the machines, he knew the materials, he knew which measurements mattered, which defects would become failures, which warning signs appeared before the sensors detected a problem. The knowledge was not written down, it lived inside people like Miguel. Knowledge accumulated through repetition, thousands of shifts, thousands of corrections, thousands of mistakes. In 2024, the company announced a phased automation strategy. No dramatic layoffs, no factory closure, no crisis. Positions would simply disappear as workers retired or left. Miguel's role was among them. His position was not being eliminated, it was being scheduled to not exist. 3 years from now, a robotic system will perform the work. The factory will continue operating. Output will increase. Efficiency will improve. Production will continue. Only participation declines. Miguel is not watching a factory disappear. He is watching the reason the factory needed him disappear. And his city faces the same realization. The schools, the diners, the local businesses, the tax base, the identity of the community itself. All were built around a simple assumption. If production grows, people benefit. The factory remains, the assumption does not. And the question facing Miguel's community is one industrial societies have never had to answer before. What do we become when the factory no longer needs us? Miguel Reyes is not standing at the edge of a career transition. He is standing at the edge of a historical transition. For generations, people like Miguel formed the center of industrial society. They built the products, maintained the systems, trained the next generation, paid the taxes, coached the teams, filled the diners, supported the schools, anchored the communities. When economists measure manufacturing, they count output. They rarely count the social architecture built around the people producing it. Miguel is watching that architecture become optional, not because anyone hates workers, not because anyone planned it, because the incentive no longer requires what the architecture once required, and history offers few clear examples of societies navigating this transition successfully. Here's the hidden system that explains why the dark factory is spreading. No manufacturer wakes up intending to eliminate jobs. The incentive structure removes the choice before the decision is made. Once one company successfully automates production, every competitor faces the same calculation: automate or compete against someone who did. A dark factory can operate continuously, without shift premiums, without overtime, without labor shortages, without most forms of human variability. And the company that adopts those advantages first gains a cost advantage that compounds over time. No coordination is required. No conspiracy is required. No executive needs to dislike workers. The incentive is enough. Competitive pressure does the rest. The same force that once pushed factories across oceans in search of cheaper labor is now pushing factories away from labor altogether. Dark factories are not spreading because robotics became possible. They are spreading because the economics increasingly make them difficult to refuse. And the reshoring that politicians promised would restore industrial employment is revealing a truth nobody wanted to state openly. The factories that return to developed economies are not the factories that left. They are built for the current era, highly automated from the beginning, designed to produce maximum output with minimum headcount. The factory comes back. The employment model does not. Production remains abundant. Participation becomes scarce. Every robot replaces an average of 1.6 manufacturing workers. China installed 290,000 robots in 2024 alone. Communities that lose manufacturing employment face a specific sequence. The factory stays open, output often increases. But the workers who once filled the shifts and spent their wages in the local economy are no longer present in the same numbers. The tax base that funded schools and infrastructure was built on employment, not output. When output rises and employment falls, the community receives less, even as the factory produces more. We often describe the industrial era as a period when factories produced a middle class, but that description is incomplete. The middle class was not the product, participation was. The factory gave millions of people something deeper than a paycheck. It gave them a role, a reason to be needed. A reason to leave the house, a reason to develop skills, a reason to believe their effort mattered. The paycheck was the visible output. Participation was the invisible one. And for more than a century, industrial societies quietly assumed those two things would always travel together: produce more, employ more, grow more, include more. But the dark factory introduces a possibility industrial civilization was never designed to confront: production without participation. For the first time in history, systems are emerging that can generate increasing economic value while requiring fewer and fewer human beings to participate in creating it. Factories never just produced goods, they produced livelihoods, communities, identity, belonging, and ultimately, a middle class. The dark factory can produce the goods. Nobody has yet demonstrated how to produce everything else. Every civilization must answer a simple question: why do ordinary people matter? Industrial society answered that question through participation. You mattered because the system needed you, the economy needed you, the factory needed you. Your labor connected you to production. Production connected you to prosperity. Prosperity connected you to society. But systems are emerging that increasingly preserve the prosperity while reducing the participation. For the first time in history, a civilization may be approaching a world where economic value and human involvement no longer rise together. We know how to build abundance. What remains unclear is whether we know how to build significance. And that realization connects manufacturing to every investigation that came before it. Education asked, who knows? Media asked, what happened? Manufacturing asks, who participates? These are not industry questions, they are civilization questions. Every society must determine who possesses expertise. Every society must determine what is true. Every society must determine how people participate in creating shared prosperity. Artificial intelligence is now reshaping all three simultaneously. In education, AI changes how expertise is formed. In media, AI changes how reality is verified. In manufacturing, AI changes how participation is distributed. Different industries, same pattern. The incentive changes first, the institution follows. Society absorbs the consequences. But beneath all three questions lies an even larger one, a question previous generations rarely needed to ask. If our most important systems no longer require large numbers of people, what role do large numbers of people play in society? The Dark Factory does not answer that question. It merely forces us to confront it. Across this series, the same pattern appeared repeatedly. Education answered, who knows? Journalism answered, what happened? Manufacturing answered, who participates? These questions seem unrelated. They are not. They are the foundations of social order. Every stable society needs a way to determine who possesses expertise. Every stable society needs a way to determine what is true. Every stable society needs a way to determine how ordinary people contribute. For generations, institutions answered those questions. AI did not begin by attacking the institutions. It changed the incentives. The institutions adapted, and the answers began changing with them. Which means the story of artificial intelligence may not ultimately be about technology at all. It may be about the quiet renegotiation of the relationship between people and the systems that organize their lives. Industrial society made a promise, not always in writing, not always honored, but consistently enough that people built lives around it. The promise was simple. If you contribute to production, you share in prosperity. Factories became one of the places where that promise was fulfilled. Millions of people found purpose there, identity there, community there, a future there. The Dark Factory does not break that promise dramatically. It makes it increasingly unnecessary. Not through malice, not through conspiracy, through incentives that every institution followed independently, and incentives powerful enough to reshape entire civilizations. A society is not judged by what it can produce. A society is judged by whether its people have a meaningful place within what it produces. That is the question hiding beneath every Dark Factory. Not whether robots can work, they can. Not whether production can continue, it will. The question is whether participation remains necessary. Because factories never just produced goods, they produced livelihoods, communities, identity, belonging, and ultimately, a middle class. The Dark Factory can produce the goods. Nobody has yet demonstrated how to produce everything else. Participation. Information can exist without verification, and credentials can survive without proving expertise. Then something larger is changing. The systems modern societies built to answer foundational questions are being rewritten. Who knows? What happened? Who participates? The answers shape the modern world. The systems producing those answers are changing, and the consequences of that change are only beginning to emerge. The factory of the future may be able to build almost anything: cars, phones, computers, entire cities. What it has not yet learned to build is a reason for millions of people to matter inside the system that produces them. And that may become the most important question of the 21st century. Civilizations do not survive because they create abundance. Civilizations survive because people believe they belong inside the systems that create it. The factory of the future may be able to build almost anything. The question is whether it can build that.